हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद प्रणाम। जय श्री
श्वेता माता जी धन्यवाद प्रणाम। जय श्री प्रभुपाद।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, जय श्री प्रभुपाद। धन्यवाद।
श्वेता माता जी धन्यवाद प्रणाम। जय श्री प्रभुपाद।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम प्रभु जी। जय
राधा
श्री
भानु
श्रीला प्रभुपाद प्रभु जी।
नाम हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम। जय श्री प्रभुपाद।
देवी धन्यवाद प्रणाम। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद प्रणाम।
धन्यवाद प्रणाम। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद प्रणाम। जय श्री
हिमांशु प्रभु धन्यवाद प्रणाम। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम।
प्रवीणा माता जी युगंधर प्रभु धन्यवाद प्रणाम। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद प्रणाम। जय श्री प्रभु।
श्रीनिवास प्रभु धन्यवाद प्रणाम। हरे कृष्ण। Actually, we are doing only third chapter. Last week, I got some feedbacks that it was little difficult to understand. It was too fast. It was not very descriptive. So I thought, okay, let me try one chapter today. Then we go in little more details. Om Agyantimirandhasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Mritamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham Karoti Vachalam Bangum Langayate Gire Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Okay. Bhakti Shastri overview, chapter 3 for today, which is Karma Yoga. The connection between second chapter, third chapter. In Bhagavad Gita 249, Krishna says, Durinahi Avaram, where Krishna basically tells Arjuna, keep all abominable activities far distant by Bhuti Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. So Arjuna is thinking the fighting to be an abominable activity, and he's thinking Buddhi Yoga to be intelligence. So he's thinking how Arjuna interprets it as use your intelligence, and with your intelligence keep all abominable activities far away. Now Arjuna asks questions that Krishna, you yourself asked me to keep all the fruitive activities or abominable activities with my intelligence far away, and then you are asking me to fight. So I'm confused what you want me to do. So this is where the third chapter begins, is by question by Arjuna, and Krishna answers it through the principle of how karma is important. Arjuna thinks that Buddhi means intelligence. By using his intelligence, he should avoid all abominable activities and thus not fight. Still, Krishna is urging him to fight. Chapter 3 begins with Arjuna's question to clarify this contradictory instruction. Now, this is the link to this chapter, why Krishna explains Karma Yoga. This is the breakdown, 5 sections. First, there is 2 questions, which is, should I renounce or should I work? Renounce because it's abominable activity, fighting. Or you want me to fight? I'm confused. Then next section, Krishna explains the concept of Nishkam Karma Yoga. Then Krishna explains the concept of Karma Kanda and how Karma Kanda, Krishna requests Arjuna to transcend Karma Kanda and go to Karma Yoga. Then the next section, Krishna explains Nishkam Karma Yoga, how it leads to setting a good example. And the last section is beware of lust and anger. So very beautiful chapter, lot of wonderful points here. So first we begin with the should I renounce or should I work? Arjuna said, O Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly affair, a warfare, which for him is abominable activity, if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness often misused as an excuse to avoid duty. I mean, Prabhupada says we can basically use any principle of Krishna consciousness to do what we want to do, and we can substantiate that through scriptures. We can also avoid duty. We can do anything. Like some people may say, I am avoiding duty. Why? Because most important thing is Shravanam and Kirtanam, and I am doing Shravanam and Kirtanam, so I don't need to do any specific service. So one can distort the philosophy of Krishna consciousness by any means using the philosophy. And sometimes there are very commonly seen husband wife also try to prove their point using the Shastra, and that's also a part of one's own duplicitous nature. Um, um, so Arjuna is also, because he doesn't want to fight, he is using the statement spoken by Krishna to tell him why he still should not fight. And that's where the concept come in the end. Okay, Krishna, I understand why I still don't want to do. And Krishna said, lust only, Arjuna. Then the sign of a sincere student places the doubt before master to elicit best course of action. And that's the sign of sincerity of Arjuna. Something we can do is we can keep the principle, the philosophy in our mind, and then we can convince ourselves this is according to Shastra, and we still do what we want to do. That's a sign of lack of sincerity. And that's where there is a principle of Guru, because we are not liberated souls. That's why there is so much emphasis on hearing Shastra from Guru and acting under guidance of Guru, because then there is very less chances of distortion till we become pure. And here clearly Arjuna is using scriptures to substantiate his attachment. Okay, that's the first section. Then we proceed. Then there is the second section where Krishna explains about Nishkama Karma Yoga. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Lokesmin Dvividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Naga Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. So here the last two lines, he says Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O sinless Arjuna," this concept is little bit technical, so I request everyone's attention. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by Sankhya or Jnana, and others by Karma Yoga." Last time we discussed yoga ladder. We will see a part of it today also, because Krishna himself describes what is karma kanda in this chapter, and Krishna further describes what is nishkama karma yoga. Those who want a good understanding of nishkama karma yoga need to refer to the last part of second chapter, the third chapter, and the fifth chapter. They all have some concepts of nishkama karma yoga. So Krishna says two classes of men who try to realize the self. One kind is Jnanis or Sankhya. Sankhya means basically Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam. Analyzing the scriptures, trying to understand the scripture and realizing spiritual life based on our understanding. In the purport, Prabhupada explains. So let's see the next slide that will help us to understand. There is the difference between Sankhya Yoga, philosophical speculation, what is Jnana Yoga, and what is Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga and Krishna consciousness. Krishna uses this word simultaneously. Karma Yoga and Krishna consciousness. Sankhya Yoga is indirect path. Karma Yoga and Krishna consciousness, or Buddhi Yoga is direct path. A process of directly connecting the level of our activity or karma for the purpose of Krishna. This Sankhya Yoga, people actually in Sankhya Yoga, they don't do any activity. They do speculation. But Karma Yoga is You work, you do your duty, and you keep Krishna in the center. This is Prabhupada explains how Sankhya Yoga is not recommended, and Krishna himself warns Arjuna to take the path of Karma Yoga in Krishna consciousness, which is Buddhi Yoga. And that's what this section explains. But Krishna begins with, yes, there is Sankhya and there is Karma, and then he explains the benefit of Nishkama Karma Yoga. That's why this chapter is called Nishkama Karma Yoga. Then some more understanding, Sankhya Yoga, Jnana Yoga, dependence on personal endeavor, meant for persons who want to understand things by experimental knowledge, and philosophy on one's own limited capacity. They hear the philosophy, they derive some conclusion, then they all discuss among each other, then they all have put their own views, they try to come to a conclusion, they try to act based on gyan, renouncing all object of sense gratification and engaging them more and more in philosophical speculation. And gradually, as time passes, their understanding grows. So this is an indirect path, dependence on personal endeavor. Then Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga and Krishna consciousness, their dependence on Krishna's mercy. A process of depending entirely on Supreme and does not depend one's own limited capacity of sense control, purity to advance. Therefore, it is easy and better. So, Gyan yogis, they control their senses through Gyan. Bhakti yogi, if they want to control their senses, Krishna, please help me to control my tongue. Krishna, please help me to control my eyes and ears and other sense organs. Krishna, please help me to become pure. Krishna. So this is a path of dependence. It's easy and better. Sankhya Yoga is unsure of success, may never reach the highest rung of ladder, which is to attain Krishna's mercy. Ultimately, we see in yoga ladder, the purpose of Sankhya is also to go to Bhakti, eventually, or attain impersonal realization. But many Gyanis come to Bhakti. Many Gyanis Ashtangis eventually come to Bhakti. Then Buddhi Yoga is surety of success. There is surety of success because strength is given by the mercy of Krishna and Vaishnavas. Thus one is easily relieved from bondage of action. And there is no flaw in the process of Buddhi Yoga. Even we see Krishna himself says, even if one makes mistakes on this path, Krishna says no need of any atonement. Krishna still considers him saintly as long as he continues the principles of Bhakti Yoga. Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga has a lot of like scope for failures and one can still continue. But in Sankhya Yoga, Jnana Yoga and speculative process, once fall down, everything goes to zero. Like we discussing about Vishwamitra Muni, 1000 year tapasya, became angry, lost everything and began again. That's why Krishna also says in Buddhi Yoga, Karma Yoga and Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga, there is no loss or diminution, any advancement. So it is a very safe process for balanced people. And Prabhupada described in detail Sankhya and Karma. And the reason Krishna is bringing this point is because Arjuna is asking, should I denounce or should I work? Usually Sankhya and Ashtanga, they both renounce. We will see in the 6th chapter, Krishna says yamas and niyamas of Ashtanga Yoga, and he says free from sex life. Go to the secluded place or the forest on a seat, not too high, not too low. And same is with Jnana Yoga. Like we see in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, Prakashananda Saraswati and others coming and doing philosophical speculation, and they would criticize Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as he's a bhavuka, he is emotional, he's chanting and dancing, and he's not doing what a sannyasi should do, which is read scripture and discuss among other sannyasis. But Mahaprabhu doesn't want to associate with that. So it's very clear. Then initial purification required by prescribed duty, a gradual path of purification of senses by philosophical process. Now, sense control is required whether one is doing Ashtanga Yoga or one is doing Sankhya Yoga. In Ashtanga Yoga, one purifies the senses by asanas and pranayam. senses mind becomes purified, and pratyahara, we will see that in detail, where one withdraws the senses from the object of the senses. Then comes dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, which is remembering Vishnu in one's heart. In Sankhya Yoga, they control their senses through the knowledge itself. Like one thing they say is, well, this body is earth, water, fire, air, ether. It's illusion by nature. It's temporary. It's changing. I'm attracted because of the illusory energy. And the reality is, some people say beauty is only skin deep, so I should not be attracted. So in this way, they depend on their own strength, their own gyan, and they regulate the senses. And actually, if they regulate the senses, they are not miserable. Krishna says that by engaging the senses in the sense object is a source of misery. Dukkha yamna evate. Ehi samsparsha chabhoga dukkha yamna evate. So through Gyan, they control the senses, or through asana pranayam, they control the senses. Bhakti Yoga, they still engage all their senses in sense gratification, but in a regulated way. Bhakti Yoga is very balanced. Bhakti Yoga doesn't require renunciation, whether it's independent of whether one is a household brahmachari, vanaprastha, sannyas. One may be very weak, then naturally it's very, very difficult. If somebody is very weak, usually very highly qualified people actually go to Ashtanga, and because it requires strong determination to live in a forest, a very severe austere life, a very dry speculation, a strong control over the mind. So that's why the yamas and yamas are very, very difficult. But Bhakti Yoga, Krishna says, Susukam Avyayam. It is very joyfully performed. It doesn't require any prior qualification. In fact, Krishna says those who are lower birth, in 9th chapter, Krishna says, Vaishya, Shudras, or whatever one's karma is, Krishna says, having taken shelter of me, they quickly become purified and come back to me. So no matter how degraded we are, how much less determination we have, the path of bhakti is so pure that Prabhupada would say, converted hippies into happies. They may have all sinful activities, breaking all four regulative principles, and can rise to platform of pure devotion, which is the highest. And that shows how powerful is Bhakti Yoga. So very detailed understanding about what is Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga and what is Bhakti Yoga. And Krishna himself says, well, Krishna is very neutral. We see that also. Krishna does not say that Jnana Yoga is for is not a means for self-realization. He doesn't say that. When Arjuna asks, should I renounce? I am confused. Should I renounce or should I work? Then he says, well, Arjuna, there are two paths. And in Uddhav Gita, Krishna explains, I have created three paths for self-realization. He says one is Gyan, one is Karma, and one is Bhakti. And he says Karma is for those who are too attached. Gyan is those who are too renounced or too disgusted with material life. And Bhakti is for balanced people who want to attain perfection. Easiest way, most powerful way, because everything is dependent upon Krishna's mercy. Okay, that's from the purport to Krishna's first question. And then from there, Krishna establishes Nishkam Karma Yoga, where he says, renunciation of, this is very important point, renunciation of activity without the necessary qualification will lead to destruction on the path of spiritual advancement. Now, this is what I was sharing, that it requires a very high qualification to be a Ashtangi or a Jnani, because both require renunciation. And if one renounces while one has attachment to material objects, then that is a recipe to fall down. In other words, one will not be able to continue. So it requires a certain amount of purification, strong determination, mind in mode of goodness to be able to follow those paths. Renunciation of activity is not a means of purification, it is a result of purification. Some people say, if I renounce, then I'll become purified, but that's not the concept Krishna explains. Rather, he says, if we practice devotional service, then the result will be renunciation. Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion, he explains renunciation is not a prerequisite for bhakti. Srimad Bhagavatam explains Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnaninas Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahaitukam. So what Srimad Bhagavatam explains, renunciation and knowledge are the two children of bhakti. If you practice bhakti, you will become renounced and you will gain knowledge. So bhakti is most important. But for them, renunciation is a prerequisite. Now, what if they renounce and they have attachment? Then Krishna says everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the modes. Those in mode of passion will be attracted to those desires. Mode of ignorance will be attracted to those habits, which includes anger and sleep and other things. Ignorance. Mode of goodness will be attracted to those things. And based on these three modes, there is Kshatriya, Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra. In other words, those who are in mode of goodness and passion, they are Kshatriyas by nature. And if they renounce, like the way Arjuna wants, then they will be forced to act helplessly. And Krishna says, what can repression of mode accomplish? If you have a particular nature and you get inspired by say a life of renunciation, which requires certain other qualities, then we'll be forced to act according to our nature. We cannot repress the modes. It will be temporary, it will be artificial, and it will be very disheartening. Okay, then artificial renunciation will make us mithyachari or pretender. We renounce, but because the attachment is there, mentally we will meditate and will become a pretender. Krishna says, better be a genuine, sincere householder than a pretender sannyasi. And this is what Arjuna wanted to do. He has a nature, Kshatriya, and he wants to become a sannyasi. So Krishna is warning Arjuna, that path is there, but see, this is what is going to happen. That's why Krishna emphasizes Karma Yoga, balanced path. Sincere Karma Yoga and Krishna consciousness without attachment is by far superior. Rather, Krishna establishes principle of whatever you are attached to, use those propensities in serving Krishna and just dedicate those results to Krishna. Somehow try to become Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada emphasized no need to leave anything, just add Krishna in the center, which is a principle of Bhakti Yoga. So that's how Krishna brings Arjuna from conclusion. Work should be done for the pleasure of Vishnu, else it causes bondage. Or like how Sagar Maharaj explains, do what you like to do, keeping Krishna in the center, and that is Karma Yoga. Okay. Any discussion up till this point? Nishkam Karma Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, how Karma Yoga is better, how Nishkam Karma Yoga is better than Sankhya Yoga, and how Arjuna's question is answered when he says, should I renounce or should I work? And the approach Krishna takes to answer that. Is it clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right, thank you. Then we go from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. Now Krishna brings the point of Karma Kanda. First, Krishna explains what is Karma Kanda. So the link between section 2 and section 3, if a person is too attached to material life and cannot perform Nishkam Karma Yoga, for them Krishna describes the yoga ladder from lowest rung and gradually moving higher from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. Or basically those who are too attached to material life, there is a section of Karma Kanda. What is Karma Kanda? In the beginning, Lord created men and demigods along with sacrifice for Vishnu. This is verse number 10 to 16th. Now, Krishna or Vishnu created men and demigods and then he creates sacrifices. The fire of sacrifice is Vishnu. The sacrifice is actually done to please Vishnu, but at the same time, oblations are offered to demigods, Indra and others. So there is a cooperation between men and demigods. Men perform sacrifices to the demigods. The demigods give the results in return. And that's how during between the cooperation between men and demigods, both can be happy. It's karma kanda because it's not selfless by nature. It is done for material benefit, but through the medium of demigods. Below karma kanda, there is karmi or animal life. Animal life means not following scriptures like illicit sex, gambling, meat eating. This is animal life. Then Vedic knowledge starts from karma kanda, where you perform various things to ask demigods, like we worship. I mean, we don't worship, but people worship Ganesh for something, Lakshmi for something, Parvati for something, and this is karma kanda section. The demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please you by providing all necessities. But he who enjoys such gifts given by demigods without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. In other words, there has to be a cooperation. People should worship demigods and they will give the results, and they should express gratitude and worship demigods, and this cycle. Then people can be happy. Otherwise, they will become thief because you take something belongs to somebody else and then you claim it, you take it by force, and you don't pay the price, which is the sacrifice. Then it's like stealing. So first Krishna explains about, okay, those who are too attached to material life, then take this karma kanda. The purpose of karma kanda is to gradually come to the platform of karma yoga, eventually realize everything comes from Lord Vishnu. And when one works for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu, one goes from karma kanda to karma yoga. This is karma kanda, then karma yoga. Then after Krishna explains this, then Krishna says the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sin because they eat food which is first offered for sacrifice. Specifically, if you see the first 4 words, it says the devotees of the Lord. Now, this is naturally Lord Vishnu. They are released from all kinds of sins because they use it for the pleasure of Vishnu. They offer it for the pleasure of Vishnu. Then this diagram is important. Devotees should try to understand this, which is a cycle of sacrifice. Here attentively, all embodied living entities, they subsist on food grains. Food grains are produced by rains. How? Because it is said the demigods and all the people in higher planets, when they leave the body, the souls are in the ether. And when the rain comes, the soul comes through the rain. And when the plants or seed takes the rain, then the souls are entered into the seeds, vegetables, and food. And when the father eats, then the souls are transferred, and then they're transferred to mother, and that's how the birth takes place. And the food grains themselves are souls, like whether it's potato, whether it is wheat, everything is a living entity, and they are given by rain because rain contains the souls from the ether. So all living entities, they subsist on food grains. Food grains are produced by rains. Rains are dependent upon the performance of yagya, sacrifice. This yagya in karma kanda section is you worship Indra and he will give you rains, just like the way Nanda Maharaj used to do. You perform a yagya and he will give you rains. Not for us we do Sankirtan yagya. Prabhupada describes in the purport. Then the sacrifice is born of prescribed duties. They are described in Vedas. So what are the sacrifice? Whatever the scripture says for a particular varna and ashram, you do those duties. That will be an act of sacrifice. The demigods are pleased by that. They will give you rain. The rain will bring food grain. The food grain, then we survive on that. Then Krishna says Vedas come from the Supreme Lord. So how, if you see wide cycle of sacrifice, because ultimately we are dependent on the Supreme Lord. Lord provides and living entity survives. So instead of going through the whole cycle of prescribed duties, rains, and food grains, which will naturally come if embodied living entities directly worship the Supreme Lord. So purpose of human life is to please the Supreme Lord, but they please indirectly through yagyas and prescribed duties and Vedas. And Krishna also says, Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Then best process is please the Supreme Lord by unalloyed and undeviated devotional service. That's why Krishna says no need to perform all this karma kanda. Whatever dharma, just abandon and worship me. Best yagya for this is the Sankirtan yagya, chanting the holy names. And best mantra to be chanted purpose is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So this is an important, what is the cycle of sacrifice, how the rain is produced. So devotee should be able to explain this. Then moving further, there is the extended yoga ladder, which is animal life. We discuss karma kanda is worship of demigods and get the results from them. It's based on material desires that will gradually uplift us to sakama karma yoga, where one worships, one understands, and one worships Lord Vishnu, but still instead of desiring results from the demigods, now one desires results from Vishnu. And that becomes Sakama Karma Yoga. Most of us comes under category of actually Sakama Karma Yoga, because I mean, we are Bhakti yogis, but at the same time, we are not Nishkama, because there are many desires that we want from Bhakti. And that's something we want to purify. I mean, some of you may be Shuddha Bhakta also, but generally those who are not Shuddha Bhakta, they have material desires. And that's why it's Sakama Karma Yoga. Whether it can be subtle like name or fame, it can be gross like material objects. Then when one tries to work without any, when one tries to work only for the pleasure of Krishna, with a zero material desire, nothing for himself, only for Krishna he is working. But the work is based on prescribed duties. That is Nishkam Karma Yoga. The difference between Nishkama Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is Bhakti Yoga are activities pleasing to Krishna. Nishkama Karma Yoga is activities prescribed by the scriptures, but without any desire to enjoy. Doing it for the pleasure of the Lord as a matter of duty, whatever is prescribed for me. So that is Nishkam Karma Yoga. Then we discuss Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. Jnana Yoga, we saw speculation path. We saw the chart between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. It's good to have that understanding. Ashtanga Yoga, we can wait till 6th chapter to understand what is Ashtanga Yoga. And then finally Bhakti Yoga. Okay. So I hope this makes sense. Prabhupada explains in the purport, Jnana Yoga sunshine, because they realize Brahman. Ashtanga Yoga sun disk, because they see that the Lord is localized, Lord exists in the heart of all living entities. Goal of Ashtanga Yoga is Paramatma realization, goal of Jnana Yoga is Brahman realization, goal of Bhakti Yoga is Bhagwan realization. So Prabhupada says when you enter some planet, you see there are living entities there. And there are various activities to please the Lord, the different pastimes of the Lord. So you see much more detail. That's Bhakti Yoga, where you enter into Golok Vrindavan. That is Bhakti Yoga. Then people, those who are attached to knowledge, Jnanis, Ashtanga Yogi, they get the benefit of mystic powers. Some people are attracted and therefore perform Ashtanga Yoga. So this yoga ladder we should be clear with and understand different process and what does these section means. What is Karma Kanda? What is Sakama Karma Yoga? Difference between Nishkam Karma Yoga and Sakama Karma Yoga. Difference between Nishkam Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Difference between Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. This we should have clarity about. Okay, any discussion at this point of time? Section 3.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Please forgive me. May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. So my understanding for Nishkam Karma Yoga is, as per what you were just discussing, activities by scriptures. Activities are done which are mentioned in the scriptures for the pleasure of the Lord, right?
Yes.
So, but will these people be also considered as devotees because they're doing it for the pleasure of the Lord?
Yeah, they are devotees, Mataji. For
They are
example,
also devotees.
like we may be having a job, we may be having various responsibilities, but then we may be having a house, we may be having whatever we have. But if the desire is not to enjoy, and whatever we are doing is because part of my duty, without any personal motive, if it is then only for the pleasure of Krishna, it becomes a Nishkam Karma Yoga.
Wonderful. And
Whereas,
for Sakam, sorry, Prabhuji, you continue.
and I was just saying, if somebody asks what are the activities of Bhakti Yoga, then Prahlad Maharaj explains Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. These 9 processes are Bhakti Yoga. Now, next question.
Yes, sorry, Prabhuji. So for Sakam Karma Yogi, is he also doing the activities by the scriptures, but for his pleasure rather than Krishna's pleasure?
It's
Or is
mixed
he doing whatever he wants to?
Yeah, he is not doing whatever he wants to do. He is doing according to scriptures, following the 4 regulatory principles. He has prescribed duties he is doing, but he is doing partially to please the Lord and partially because he has his own personal motives for growth or personal desire, maybe for maybe fame, maybe wealth, maybe to impress somebody. So there are personal motives. And at the same time, he is using partially the results in Krishna's service. So it's a mixed devotional service. And that is a Kama Karma Yoga.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you.
Understood.
Anyone?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Sorry Prabhuji, please tell me the difference between Nishkama Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga Prabhuji. So, they are
So,
both working for the pleasure of the Lord.
but one is the activities of Bhakti Yoga and one is the activities of Karma Yoga. The activities of Karma Yoga comes from our Varnayam Ashrama, our prescribed duties. But when they are done without any desire for personal gain and they are done only for the pleasure of Lord, becomes Karma Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the 9 processes described by Prahlad Maharaj.
Okay. It's a following path is different.
The path is different, but at the same time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also says one should not give up Karma Yoga unless, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, unless one is liberated. Like specifically, he uses that word. But at the same time, some people may say, then how about the brahmacharis who are very new in Krishna consciousness and they give up Karma Yoga? Then they have to follow the duties prescribed for brahmachari ashram, or they have to do the duties that are prescribed for grihastha ashram. But they both have to perform their duties either prescribed by the scriptures or prescribed by guru for brahmachari. They should not be independent and trying to do their duties as much as possible to please the Lord without personal motive. Then gradually one becomes to the path of pure Bhakti Yoga, which is Shuddha Bhakta or pure devotees.
So Prabhuji, their goal will be different, Prabhuji? Will be the same?
For Nishkama Karma Yoga,
Yes, Prabhuji.
their goal is pure Bhakti Yoga. We want to become pure devotees.
Okay. In Bhakti Yoga, our goal will be to go to Goloka Vrindavan.
Yes, same goal for Nishkama Karma Yoga also is to go back to Godhead.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Sorry, Prabhuji.
And through Nishkama Karma Yoga, we want to come to platform of pure Bhakti Yoga. Nishkam Karma Yoga becomes completely Bhakti Yoga if there is one instance where Srila Prabhupada in his days when he came to US, Prabhupada was renting this matchless gift, and Prabhupada has to pay $72 monthly as a rent. So Brahmananda Prabhu said, Prabhupada, I want to just help you spread the mission. And Prabhupada told him, no, you work, you get like this. It is 50 years back. So Brahmananda Prabhu would earn like $100 something, and Prabhupada said, you use the rent to pay for the entire rent for matchless gift. So Prabhupada asked him, I mean, he was in a renounced order. He wanted a renounced order, but purposefully Guru asked him to do something for Guru's sake. Then that Karma Yoga also becomes pure Bhakti Yoga actually, in that way.
Okay, he's working for Guru.
Purely, yeah, purely without any personal motive. And it's not his prescribed duty as such, but he is doing it because Guru wants. That becomes pure Bhakti Yoga.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you.
Okay, any other question?
Prabhuji, one quick question. So when we say like when as per us, like when we're trying to aspire for bhakti and we are Sakam Karma Yogi flavor as well, because we have a tinge of desire along with the tinge of bhakti. So in that way, we definitely, when we follow the regulative principles, follow the process of Krishna consciousness bhakti, so we will directly move to bhakti yoga. But in that right now, in current state, what we are, where we are situated, like what ladder we can be still in the Sakam Karma Yoga and aspiring for bhakti. How we will describe?
Yeah,
Like all
Prabhuji.
aspiring devotee.
We are Sakama Karma Yogis. Goal is Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotees.
And then we never follow the Prabhuji, this ladder. We directly go from Sakam Karma Yoga. If we
Bhakti
follow
Yoga.
sincerely, then we'll go to bhakti. We will, bypass Nishkam Karma Yoga.
Yeah. It is said that Jnana Yogi can directly go to Bhakti Yoga. Ashtanga Yogi can directly go to Bhakti Yoga because they meditate on, the Ashtanga Yogi meditate on Paramatma in their heart. So the goal is to realize Paramatma, then render devotional service to Paramatma. Jnana Yogis, Prabhupada says they are Brahmavadis, but association of pure devotees can give them understanding that actually Krishna is also Brahman and they can directly follow Bhakti. Nishkam Karma Yoga can directly follow Bhakti. So they all Karma Kanda, when they realize demigods are part and parcel, they can also directly go to Bhakti. Ultimately, Bhakti is the essence. And everybody has to go to Bhakti to go to Goloka. Goloka is accessible only through Bhakti, whereas Paramatma and Brahman are accessible through Jnana and Ashtanga also.
Prabhuji, these Jnana Yogis are nothing but our, we can say, like Mayavadi philosophy as well.
They can be Brahmavadis also, Prabhuji. The difference between Mayavadis and Brahmavadis are Mayavadis say they say we are God and we merge into God. Brahmavadis say Brahman is supreme. We enter into Brahman. We maintain our individual identity. We are part and parcel of Brahman. And the various, like they say, various form of the Lord that come from Brahman, and Brahman is supreme. But Mayavadi, so that is, that is good. They don't have much understanding, but they have Prabhupada says is correct, but it's partially correct because Brahman is there. It is also Krishna, and we enter into Brahman. This philosophy is correct, but the understanding that I am God, I merge into God, and I lose my existence and I become God. That is a concocted philosophy propagated by Shankaracharya on order of Lord Vishnu. That is Mayavadi.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, are we good? Can we do the remaining two sections now? Okay, now this section is short, which is, I mean, there are many verses, but the principle is very simple. Nishkam Karma Yoga to set correct example. Link between section 3 and section 4. A Nishkam Karma Yogi may conclude, my prescribed duties are meant to bring material reward, but I do not have any material desire. So why should I need to perform my prescribed duty? Nishkam, now we discussed one can renounce, but that requires a purification. If one renounces before purification, then one will become a mithyachari, pretender. And one will fall down because what can repression of modes accomplish? One will be forced eventually to act according to one's mode. And purification does not lead to bhakti, but renunciation does not means purifying ourselves. But by bhakti, we become purified, and when we become purified, then we may be able to take renounced order, we may not be able to take renounced order. It doesn't matter. Like in our line, we have Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, Shivas Thakur. They were Grahastha ashram. So bhakti is independent of the ashram. We understand that. The goal is still in either ashram. The goal is Shuddha Bhakti, Shuddha pure devotional service is the goal. So one may think, Nishkam Karma Yoga, now I am purified, I have no desire remaining. Like for example, if Arjuna thinks, so Krishna explains him, now Arjuna may think, well, I do not have any material desire, I will not become a mithyachari because I have transcended the modes now, I am anyways a pure devotee. I can renounce, I can go and I can escape the war. Um, um, and modes will not force me. Krishna says one has to act according to one's modes, one's nature. But I have transcended the nature now. I am free. I am pure. So now can I renounce? Now technically, yes, you can renounce. Technically. So Krishna explains, he starts by beginning, yes, the person who is purified, who is at the platform Nishkama Karma Yoga, he has no duties to perform. Yet one should still do it to set a good example. So that's where Krishna is telling Nishkama Karma Yoga to set a good example. So first we saw Arjuna confused between the path of Sankhya or Karma. Should I renounce? Should I work? Krishna explains Sankhya and Karma. Then Krishna explains how Sankhya is artificial because one is bound by the modes of material nature. If one still renounces, then all these problems will come. And then Krishna explains how, first he explains Nishkama Karma Yoga, then he explains Karma Kanda. And Karma Kanda, one should transcend to do things for the pleasure of the Lord. Again, Karma Yoga. Now coming back from Nishkam Karma Yoga, one can renounce at this point of time, but one should still do to set a good example. So Shastra and Guru assigns one duty according to his material attachments. This is for devotees who are not Nishkama Karma Yoga, those who have material desires. Then there is regulation, there is duty according to Guru and Shastra. I mean, if those who are coming from like uncontrolled training, untrained life, from material life, and we just enter into bhakti, then okay, what scriptures want me to do, what Guru wants me to do, what devotees want me to do, and we act accordingly. And then one is given activities to purify him while letting him fulfill his desires in a regulated way. So whatever desires we have, okay, fulfill. You want this, you get it. Try to dovetail in Krishna service. So we just try to dovetail all our desire Krishna service. Whatever you want, dovetail Krishna service. That's how we go to the platform of eventually, because by dovetailing everything Krishna service, the desire for that material object will go away. That's the principle. Like Prabhupada, like example, devotees who were attached to drinking wine, Prabhupada says, okay, you can drink wine, but think that the taste of wine is Krishna. So this is, I mean, we don't say anyone this to anyone, but the principle is fulfill your desires in a regulated way, keeping Krishna in the center. And the moment Krishna comes into the picture, our purification starts. And we can eventually give up those material desires and come to a platform of doing whatever we are doing, still prescribed duties, but without any attachment. That's the principle. Like we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, Narad Muni says, Shishupal remembered Lord out of envy, Kamsa remembered Lord out of fear, Gopis remember Lord out of love, Vrishnis as a family bonding, Arjuna as a friend. Whoever remembers Lord, whether for a negative purpose or for a positive purpose, became purified. So the point is, if we bring Krishna is a purifying factor. Somehow or other, whatever we are, dovetail in Krishna service, we come to a point of Nishkam Karma Yoga. Still, one should act to set a good example. Then in the following verses, Krishna explains why one freed from material desire should nevertheless perform his duties. Two examples of leaders who performed their duty set an example. One is Janak Maharaj. He was a pure devotee, but still he was acting as a king, following the prescribed duties, everything doing as he was supposed to do. Then Krishna himself as a householder, setting an example. Krishna says, these verses comes, whatever a great man does, common man follows. These yeah, many verses related to this section is basically setting a good example. Okay, is this section clear? Main
Prabhuji, I have one question.
yes.
Prabhuji, like Janak Maharaj here, example is given for Nishkam Karma Yoga, right?
For setting a good example. He was a Nishkam Karma Yogi. He had no desire. He was doing everything for the sake of the Lord. But he was performing his duties because if he renounced then others, or if he takes some action against the scriptures, that other may follow, because whatever a great person does, common follows. And Krishna says, if I don't do my duty, although I have no duty to perform, obviously Krishna, and he says, if I don't perform my duty, whole world will be put to ruination. In other words, even if you have pure soul, still you have to fight to set a good example.
So Prabhuji, then Bhakti Yoga, you don't perform these duties, any duty? Bhakti Yoga, or because in the ladder, Bhakti Yoga is the highest, right? Like Nishkam Karma Yoga, then Gyan Yoga, and then like Bhakti Yoga. So in Bhakti Yoga, then you are not doing any other duty, like householder, or only pure devotees at the platform of like pure devotion, where they are not doing any prescribed duty. Then
No,
only we are performing Bhakti Yoga.
no, we are performing Bhakti Yoga even today, Madhavi. That's why Prabhupada uses Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga simultaneously. So, like, it's not that those who are pure devotees, like Shivananda Sen is a pure devotee, and he was taking care of his children. He was earning, and he was using his wealth to bring all the devotees from Mayapur to Puri. He would earn for 6 months, remaining 6 months he would do. He had no desire to enjoy, but then it's quite analogous to Bhakti Yoga, because that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants. And he was doing everything purely for the pleasure of the Lord. That is Bhakti Yoga.
So, Prabhuji, then what makes Nishkam Karma Yoga different from Bhakti Yoga?
Yeah, thank you. Generally, the place where Nishkam Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga differs. Two things I have heard on this. One thing is, in Nishkam Karma Yoga, we are not attached to the results, but we are still attached to the duty. In Bhakti Yoga, we do the duties that Krishna wants. In Nishkam Karma Yoga, we do the duties that we want, but we still do it purely for Krishna's pleasure. But attachment to duty is there.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, is like this one line, like we fulfill the desire in a regulated way. So, but if desires are there, then how it is Nishkam? Then it is Sakam, right? Though we are fulfilling
It
it
is
in a...
Sakam. But this will help us to become Nishkam. That's why the 2 points under it, Shastra and Guru guidance, and using the senses regulated way, will eventually bring us to the point of without any attachment, because Krishna factor purifies. And then can we renounce that time? No, because you work to set a good example.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, Sakam Karma Yoga, like you are fulfilling your desires, like you're attached to the desires also, but you are doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. So this is
Mixed.
Sakam. But when you are doing it in a regulated way, then it will become eventually Nishkam.
Even Sakam will become Nishkam Mataji, because Krishna factor will purify us from the Kama. Sakam Karma Yoga, like Dhruv Maharaj, performing devotional service with a desire for wealth, became Nishkam and pure Bhakti Yoga because of the factor of the Lord. So Sakam Karma Yoga will become Nishkam Karma Yoga.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Now, the fine line which we have not added is one can be a Nishkam Karma Yogi, where one is doing one prescribed duties according to scriptures, without any desire. Just purely this my duty, I must do it, but there is no Krishna in the center. That is also Nishkam Karma Yoga. So Nishkam Karma Yoga can be taken in two ways. One is like prescribed duties also coming from the Lord in a way. So Nishkam Karma Yoga without, so not trying to please Krishna, but doing my duty without any attachment to the results. Nishkam Karma Yoga. Where Bhakti Yoga comes is the same aspect for the pleasure of Krishna. Then that becomes Nishkam Karma Yoga. Then it bridges the gap and it turns into the zone of Bhakti Yoga. Does it help to clarify further on Nishkam Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga? But how Prabhupada explains, everything is from the perspective of Sakam Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga, whatever, pleasure of Krishna, pleasure of Krishna. And that's where it becomes little difficult to discriminate, because now we are in a zone of Bhakti Yoga, still we have prescribed duties.
So Prabhuji, like I understood two things in Nishkam Karma Yoga. First is like you are not attached to the results, but you are doing your duties to please Krishna, but you are attached to the duties.
That is one aspect, yes.
Yeah, and another aspect is you are not attached to the duties, but you are like doing your duty according to the scriptures, but you are not doing to please Krishna, like not Krishna in the center.
That is all. That also can be Nishkam
Yeah,
Karma.
so these two are the
aspects.
basic factors.
The first aspect, Mataji, is like I'm trying to give an example on this. For example, gopis. Now, this is a very high example, but if they think, well, they are not doing anything for any personal motive, they are doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna. But when Krishna plays flute, they don't go because they are bound by the scriptures. They have to stay at home. They have to be like, they have to do their duties. So, but at the same time, they're not doing their duties because they want some benefit out of it, but they are bound by the duties. It's a good example of Nishkam Karma Yoga. But when no boundaries are there, only pleasing Krishna, like they kind of give up all dharmas, then we cross over Nishkam Karma, go to Bhakti Yoga. There is not even attachment to prescribed duties for a wife. Does it answer?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So that is what Prabhuji, just to add one more point. So Prabhuji, can we say it like Nishkam Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, a devotee can be interchangeably in between these two?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Because in Gopi's example, we know one time when Krishna was calling, and I think nobody was thinking about they did not care about husband or anybody, and they just left. So that time it became pure Bhakti Yoga.
That is like Bhakti Yoga, yes. That time it's like beyond all dharmas. But one can be bound by dharma. Another example of Nishkam Karma Yoga, Prabhuji, is Bhishma Dev. Bound by his vows, bound by the duty. That's why he cannot cross over and support Pandavas and go and fight from the path of Pandavas, bound, but no material desire. Bhishma Dev. Does it help, Prabhuji, to understand?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. So,
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji,
yes.
Prabhuji, small question. So, when we are attached to our given services, Prabhuji, where does it come, Prabhuji?
When we are attached to
our given services, like Prabhuji, sometimes it happens, we become attached to our Krishna conscious services. So, where does it come, Prabhuji?
When we become attached to Krishna conscious services, I mean, when we are attached is an advanced platform. When we are steady in our Krishna conscious services is a stage of Nishtha. It is said in in our very beginning stages, sometimes we want to do, the mind may say various things, we still do it. It's a part of training. And then when the anarthas reduces, then we become fixed in our services, but we may not be very much attached to them, but we are fixed. Whatever mind says, it doesn't disturb us. I mean, anarthas are there, very small, but we are fixed. And then once there is ashakti, then we are mad after serving Krishna. And but I'm now, when you use the word attached, the word attached in Sanskrit is called ashakti, which comes after ruchi. And that's why I'm taking the one is attached. But at the stage of nishtha also, one is fixed. Nishtha means steady. One is steady in one service. In stage of anartha nivrati, one may still be steady, but then sometime one may be enthusiastic and sometime one is not very enthusiastic, but one still does it because one is guided by Guru and Shastra. Nishtha, one does it because one is inspired. One is very sincere about one's spiritual progress. Ashakti, one is attached to doing it. One is mad after serving Krishna. Does that clarify? Anandani Priya Devi?
Yes. Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Prabhuji, in the attachment aspect also, I mean, there could be different um, intentions behind the attachment. One thing is, if I attach to some service, maybe it is because I like to do it or I'm good at doing it, and that's why I want to do it, and that's why I'm attached. But the other aspect could be, like you said, asakti, that I want Krishna to be pleased.
Yeah.
I mean, attachment could be out of different intentions. That's very subtle. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
it could be interchangeably between asakti versus nishkam karma yoga. Right?
Yeah. At the same time, Prabhuji, there can be in the beginning stage, the attachment to a particular service can be out of a material desire. Can be out of, for example, I'm really attached to, say, preaching because I want something out of it. I'm very much attached to cooking because, I mean, if it is to please Vaishnavas, great. But I'm really, but if it is anything external attachment, if there's a material angle, then the material angle kind of inspires us. But at the stage of Ashakti, why I'm saying is like purely we are mad after Krishna and it's pure. But before that, as you said, attachment can come at any point of time. But in those attachments, when the results are not there, then depression will be there, enthusiasm will be lost. Then those phases will still be there. Sometimes we are enthusiastic, sometimes we are not. Although we are attached, because what attaches us, if that thing is shaken away, then our commitment will shake away. Does that make sense, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay. Should we go to last section? Anything else? Nishkam Karmi Yoga, we discussed from two perspectives. One is there is no Krishna in the center, duty, and without attachment. One aspect, Nishkam Karmi Yoga. Another aspect, Nishkam Karmi Yoga, Krishna in the center, but bound by the duty and cannot cross over that boundary. Still Nishkam Karmi Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is give up everything and do whatever Krishna wants. It's pure, it's 9 form of devotional service. Sakama Karmi Yoga, Karma Kanda, and others. All right. So I hope this helps the yoga ladder. Now, the last section, I think just 2 more slides on this. Arjuna says, this is very important section, very relevant to all of us. Arjuna says, okay, Krishna, I understand, makes perfect sense. I should do whatever you want. Basically, that's what he was saying. I should do for the pleasure of Vishnu. I should do without any bondage. I should do to set a good example. So everything that you are saying is directing me that I should fight. And you already gave me enough discouragement that Shankar Yoga is not for me because there is a nature, there is Mithachari concept. And if I'm free from all those things, then to set a good example. So by no means can I give up my karma. So this Arjuna has concluded now. So I have to fight. And then he is telling, but I still don't want to fight. So he's telling, okay, Krishna, I understand what you want me to do, but why am I still forced from internally to not do what you want me to do? what is right to do, I still don't want to do it. What is that force? And Krishna says, lust only, Arjuna. All devouring enemy born out of mode of passion and turns into wrath or anger. This section is important. Devotees may be asked, explain about lust, how to become free from lust based on Bhagavad Gita, explain about the symptoms of lust from Bhagavad Gita. What is lust from Bhagavad Gita? So this section, this 7 verses can be thorough. Then how is it all devouring enemy? There is a gross concept of lust, which is sex life. But then for Arjuna, the lust is not sex life. For Arjuna, it's a force that makes him do what he's attached to, or not do because of his attachment. So it's a force. Now, why it is all devouring enemy? It can be a family attachment. For example, Arjuna didn't want to fight because of lust. He didn't want to fight his family members because he was attached to family members. And that forces him that he cannot flee from it. He cannot serve Krishna. Krishna wants him to fight, but he is saying no to Krishna because that force is stopping him to serve Krishna. And that is lust only, Arjuna. Then we see like Dhritarashtra cannot support the right thing because of his attachment to his son. We had a beautiful discussion about Vidura was so much free from lust that he can freely speak to Dhritarashtra about how Duryodhana is, you should just kill him. When Duryodhana was born, he told him to just remove him. He is following a path of adharma. In front of Duryodhana, he is telling that he is following a path of adharma, so you should not follow him. That's when Duryodhana listening in front of him, he's saying, listening, Vidura know how envious is Duryodhana, and that's when Duryodhana became envious, and he told Vidura, get lost from here and I will give you only your breath. If you leave right now, you cannot take anything else with you. And Vidura went to holy places. So it's like free. He's like, free from lust, will do the right thing independent of attachments, will do the right thing. Like, for example, Shivananda son was cursed by Nityananda Prabhu to die because Shivananda Sen did not arrange a residential quarter for Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu became angry and he said, I curse you done to die, and Shivananda Sen fell down. This is my Lord. This is your blessing. So this is like free from lust. There is duty, but at the same time, there's Supreme Lord. Shivas Thakur son died and he doesn't want to disturb the dancing of the Lord. So there is a principle of lust and there is a principle of love. Love does not bound, love frees one. Lust attaches one. And when the lust is there, then we are afraid of displeasing them. When love is there, then we are determined on bringing them to the right path, giving them the right direction. That's how it's a very strong, very, very strong phenomena that exists. Krishna says it's all devouring, means nobody is free from it. And also there's lust for prasad. Well, I really like this. I ate it and then I want some more and I'm full, little more. Then there is lust for material objects, gadgets. I want it and we are constantly absorbed in what is the new technology coming, what is the new iPhone coming, what is the new iPad coming, what feature does it has, and when will I get, and I want this particular car, I want to buy this particular house. This is all phenomena of lust. Then desire for fame and adoration. So it's an all-devouring enemy. This is all mode of passion. Mode of passion means selfishness. Selfishness means I am the enjoyer, and lust basically means I am the enjoyer. How Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami explained lust and love is: lust is I want to enjoy my senses, love is I want to please Krishna's senses. So how deeply this principle is ingrained within our heart, one has to realize it for oneself. But the conclusion will be, I'm completely devoured by this enemy. So very broad conception, and clearly here Arjuna was not disturbed by sex life, and that's why Krishna is saying lust only Arjuna. In fact, Arjuna was so much freed from sex life that when he went and this Urvashi was dancing and he called her mother, he was not disturbed. Indra is disturbed, but Arjuna is not disturbed. Arjuna's mind is very much pure. but Krishna is telling it is lust only, Arjuna. That's why you're not willing to fight. So this one should understand, it's all devouring enemy. What is lust? One should be able to explain these things. One should be able to understand the concept, how it is much more wider. Then it degrades to wrath. When somebody touches our family member, we become angry. Somebody says something to our son or daughter, immediately anger comes on a devotee also. Or it's like, then if you don't get the prasad that we like to get, or somebody doesn't cook for us, or somebody cooks but doesn't come out good, or somebody doesn't cook the item we like, or we want something, we don't get it, or the anger or the frustration is continuous. It goes one after other. So it immediately degrades into wrath or anger. And then covers the living entity's pure consciousness. One is no longer able to see I am part and parcel of Krishna. The goal of my Gatir Hi Vishnu is to attain Krishna, pure loving devotional, a relationship with Krishna, pure chanting. But immediately this lust and anger, this is like, it brings us to ignorance, makes us forget of who we are, and covers the living entity's pure consciousness. Then Krishna says different living entities have different degrees of lust. There is smoke, fire, mirror, dust, and embryo womb. Embryo womb is very thick degree of lust because embryo is fully covered by womb. Then mirror and dust on the mirror, you can take a cloth, and with a cloth you need to clean. So it is much thinner layer than embryo and womb. Like embryo covered by a womb, it's a much thicker layer. Dust covering the mirror, little thin, one wet cloth can remove it. And then smoke and fire, just by blowing the air you can bring the fire out, but you cannot blow the air on a mirror if it's a decent layer of dust. You have to literally like put some energy to wipe it. But so there is degree of lust. How it is also explained, any plants, animals, and humans. Humans have minimum degree of lust. Animals have more and plants have most. So how do we understand this? I mean, plants have maximum, according to Krishna, think about it, plants have maximum degree of lust only, Arjuna. And humans, now obviously they don't have any sex desire, but it is also the ignorance of the living entity. Ignorance a sign of lust only, Arjuna. So this is like a thick, but at the same time humans are closest to it. How Krishna explains is very easily you can see your relationship with Krishna. Very easily you can work on that relationship, go back to Godhead. That's why humans have the minimum degree. But among humans also there are different degrees based on attachments. Pleasing one's senses is lust only, and pleasing Krishna's senses is pure love. Then it is never satisfied, burns like fire, like how my Guru Maharaj explains, one last time, and there is never a last time. One can take vows that if I like, especially illicit relationship or artificial means, especially gross lust, one more time and I commit suicide. One has to be strong with oneself. One has to take severe vows. Otherwise, Maya is not going to leave us because she's very, very strong. And it is never satisfied. It's like, the example given by Srila Prabhupada mentions, putting fuel into the fire, fire never becomes extinguished. It just flames, and it just increases our frequency also. And simultaneously, one should work on lust for prasad, material objects, gadgets, desire for fame. One has to consciously work on this all-devouring enemy. Otherwise it is not going to leave us. And that's why. Okay, let's see. And then the setting places, Krishna says there is senses, mind, and intelligence. Intelligent, lusty senses makes sense. Lusty mind, desire for fame, adoration. Lusty intelligence is used for sinful activities. So lies in all different places. And then how to fight with lust, regulate the senses, stay within Krishna's zone. One time one devotee asked, one brahmachari asked Guru Maharaj, I have too much desire to eat sweets. Maharaj said, eat sweets. That's all right. So at least it should be Krishna Prasad, because principle is, if it is Krishna Prasad, it will purify us gradually. And Maharaj just said, when you eat sweets, just take a humble mood and pray, offer Mahaprasad prayers. If people who don't connect with Mahaprasad prayers, remember, my Lord, this tongue is most devouring among all the senses. I am completely overcome by it. I am very, um, I understand. I am bound by it. By your mercy, you are giving this. So at least in a humble mood, one can offer the Mahaprasad prayers and then eat it. And just by doing that, but Maharaj said you can eat the sweets as much as you want, but offer Mahaprasad prayers from your heart. Then stay within Krishna's zone can be according to Shastras, like how Prabhupada says sex life is for procreation. It is not for sense gratification. Otherwise it will create bondage. Subject matter of nectar of instruction, first verse. So regulate the senses does not mean, that's why Bhakti Yoga is so safe, that four regulated principles at any cost one should not break. Otherwise, it will become, the chanting will become, we will become weak in our Krishna consciousness if we break four regulated principles. Plus Guru Aprad happens, because many of us have given our vows to Guru. So one has to be very, very careful. Whatever is allowed within regulation, it's okay, do it. But take shelter of Krishna in those circumstances. Don't expose yourself to your weakness. We all know our weak points. We all know what I cannot stand. Based on your individual determination, don't enter the red zone. Otherwise, the mind is all powerful. The enemies are all powerful. In other words, don't try to test Maya. Try to remain in your own safe zone. What is your safe zone? You decide. Ultimately, every devotee has to make their own individual choices of what is favorable for me, what is not favorable for me. And whatever is, different people will have different favorable things and different unfavorable things. There is no one set rule. You see where you become weak and act on that. So, okay. So don't expose yourself to your weaknesses. Tolerate the demands of the senses. One should learn to tolerate them. In fact, Rupa Goswami describes one must learn to tolerate them. And he says one should, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udara Prastha Vegam. So he says Vegam means one who is able to, see the words Rupa Goswami uses, one who is able to tolerate the urges of tongue, speech, mind, genitals, belly, and anger. One who is able to tolerate these urges is qualified to accept disciples all over the world. What a qualification Rupa Goswami has given. I mean, this is a very high thing for Gurudevs to accept disciples all over the world. But the principle Rupa Goswami is saying, who can do that? One who is able to tolerate the urges. Now the thing is, Rupa Goswami does not say urge should not be there. He says one who is able to tolerate the urges of these things. The tongue has urge, the anger has urges. The mind has urges. Are we running after fulfilling the demands of these urges, or are we cautious of tolerating those urges? Maybe with a baby step. Okay, this urge I should tolerate, because the principle goes very high. Like sky is the limit to what extent we may have to learn to tolerate them. But the principle is, Krishna says that's why he does not say become free from it. Krishna says fight it. Specifically, we will be asked, how do we fight with lust? How it's a battle actually. So one has to, Krishna clearly says, regulate the senses. And these are some of the ways we can regulate our senses. And then, and next three things they're specifically mentioned. Two things are by Krishna's verses, another is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. All these three should be mentioned. If the question is how should we fight with lusty desires? One is deliberate spiritual intelligence. Krishna says how superior to mind is the intelligence, overcomes the demand of mind by spiritual strength. Spiritual strengths come from regular sadhana and taking shelter when in need. Sincere chanting, know as much as possible, don't displease devotees. Then you will gain the strength. If you offend devotees, or if we don't practice the nam aparats, if we don't avoid nam aparats, especially sadhu ninda, and if our sadhana is not concentrated, focused, attentive, or priority, very easily we'll be victimized by this. Our mind and intelligence will become weak. Minds will have demand. One needs spiritual strength. Strength comes from sadhana. And also another thing we hear is um, um, whenever we are when the urge is very strong, take shelter of Krishna. Whatever be the urge, kind of urge, Krishna, please help me. Krishna, please help me. Before there has to be a desire to tolerate the urge. We may have a desire to tolerate certain urges, but certain urges we may just free ourselves. But like sex life, okay, devotees are very trained that okay, this urge I need to tolerate. But certain other urges we may just allow ourselves to wander around. Okay, I can buy whatever I want from Amazon, from wherever. I can accumulate things. I can look for name and fame. I need it. I can, eat whatever I want whenever I want. So one may just not work on tolerating the various five other urges also. So one has to have a desire. First beginning is a desire to tolerate the urge, because we see, well, this is not sinful activity, so I'm free, I can do whatever I want. So there also we need to see, okay, can I tolerate the urges? So how can we actually fight it? From the root principle is regulate the senses, deliberate spiritual intelligence, and the most important is converting lust into love. Like Srila Prabhupada explains, we all have love for Krishna, love for Srimati Radharani, love for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Originally, we love of God is within our heart. When we forgot that, and it has become perverted into lust for all these things. So that pure, intense, concentrated love is now divided into everything I want. Initially, it was I only want Krishna and any associates of Krishna, and I love them, and my whole desire is focused only on them. Now that emotion is very, very strong. That love is very, very strong. Now when that is diluted, then that gap is filled with all these things around the world. I need good clothes. I need good, fill in the blanks. I need good. And so it's like dispersed love of God into because we were fulfilled by loving Krishna. That is broken, that is lost. Now we are trying to fulfill ourselves with various other things dispersed, like Krishna says the intelligence is many branched. Those who are resolute in person, their intelligence is one branched, is like love for Krishna is only intelligence. But those who are not, many branch intelligence. And that's why the only way is to reawaken and concentrate the whole energy in loving Krishna. At the same time, materially tolerate the urges, use the intelligence, and regulate the senses. And if we are doing these three things, then we'll be able to fight with lust only, Arjuna. Okay, are there any discussion on this?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, I have one question, quick question. Can you please tell me the example of lust of mind and intelligence? I mean, just want to understand each of them, lust of senses, mind, and intelligence, so that I can remember always.
For example, intelligence is, mind says, they are connected to the senses, Prabhuji. Like, I want wealth, then intelligence says, yeah, so maybe this is better. This opportunity will give you more wealth. This business is better. This job is better. Or you can be duplicitous and cheat a little bit here and you can get it like this. So material intelligence is lusty intelligence. Anything without intelligence, we cannot attain anything. Senses are only physical object they demand. Mind tells intelligence, this is what the eye want, and this is what the senses want. Intelligence makes all the processes, devise the ways how to acquire what mind and senses want. All three are lusty by nature. They all have material goals. Does that help?
We can say like intelligence is a kind of grantor for those, like, approver, like, give the direction. Mind may give the, so senses has propagate some desire, right? Like, lust. I want this job. Mind will think it through, search, do all research and decide few options to intelligence, and then intelligence choose one of them. Oh yeah, this is right for, if suppose business or something like that. Should I understand?
Yeah, Prabhu. Mind is like child. I want it. Intelligence is like, okay, how do I get it? I have to give him what he wants. How do I make sure we acquire it? Otherwise, mind say, I want it, I want it, I want it. Is it done? I don't get it. I want it. Just 1 or 0. I want it. Intelligence makes things happen. They are all covered by the same disease.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Is there anything else?
Prabhuji, one question.
Anandani Priya Devi, yes.
Prabhuji, I heard in a lecture when we fell from spiritual world to material world. Before we had only love. So when we fell from spiritual world, love perverted into lust. So by birth only, Prabhuji, the lust is there. The seed of lust is there, right, Prabhuji? So
lifetimes.
Yes, Prabhuji. So Prabhuji, like it's how to recognize and how to, like, Prabhuji, because it is there from birth. It's like and slowly it is increasing, right, Prabhuji? As we are growing up, we are developing more and more. So Prabhuji, sometimes I feel like it's my own desires. Desires are dominating and making me to become more lusty day by day, or it's sometimes I feel it's because of modes, Prabhuji. So it's difficult, Prabhuji. I don't know like how to overcome, Prabhuji.
Okay. Well, desires are influenced by modes. We, in a conditioned state, I'm talking about myself, we almost have very little free will, because whatever modes we're influenced by, we want to sleep, or we want to become angry, or we want to eat more, we want to acquire more, or we want to do selfless service, whatever desire we are having, they are all influenced by modes. Is it increasing? It's not increasing, it's there. It cannot increase unless we engage in those activities, feed it. Then we are putting more fuel into the fire, it will increase it. If we are tolerating it, working on it, it's not going to increase. Sometimes it can manifest more, sometimes it can manifest less. And that has a lot of dependence on pleasing devotees also. It is said that when we come to Krishna consciousness, when our sadhana is going well, then Krishna covers our anartha, so we can peacefully practice Krishna consciousness. But when he covers, we don't become free from it. It's just covered. But sometimes Krishna can uncover depending upon our sadhana, and they may increase. How do we deal it is, like we may think, okay, I'm having so many desires nowadays because my sadhana is not good. I don't know, maybe is it some mistake I'm doing in devotional service? Otherwise, Krishna usually covers them. Yes, I'm not pure devotee, but I don't want to become disturbed, so I can continue my Krishna consciousness. and then a devotee don't acts on it because he know it has a cause, and he does not identify in his mind. He is not driven by whatever mind says I have to fulfill it, but he can disassociate with his mind, and he sees that the soul observes the mind, the soul observes the intelligence, the soul doesn't take any action, and the soul thinks like, okay, now I have to work on this. I need to reduce this drive, this desire. And then the soul takes shelter of Krishna. This mind and intelligence is becoming a little unruly. Krishna, please forgive me if I'm making any mistake. Krishna, please help me in this particular situation. So this is after one is like busy, one keeps oneself busy. One is trying to regulate the senses, one is trying to be very strong in sadhana. Still, these waves will come, and ultimately, it's the players taking shelter of Krishna, and then not acting on the demands of the mind and intelligence and the senses, taking shelter of Krishna, being patient, they will subside and we will practice peacefully. Does that answer?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else before we end for today?
Dandath Pranam, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I think one more question if we have time. I know it's already late. Like in the beginning stage, I think this is going back to one of the questions asked by Chopati devotee Guru Maharaj to Guru Maharaj. Very advanced devotee, but what his question was like, Guru Maharaj, at the beginning when we are in Krishna consciousness, the taste in the chanting or enthusiasm to serve the devotees, and the mood is very submissive and very enthused. But down the line, as we progress and as we spend more and more time in Krishna consciousness, then his question was like, it feels like there is a responsibility. We are doing service, we are doing everything to please Guru and Krishna and Vaishnavas, but the taste in the holy name is not the same that at the beginning. And then Maharaj's answer was, it doesn't matter what we think, but the important is whether Krishna is pleased or not. And Maharaj said that maybe Krishna is pleased now with you because you are taking more responsibilities and doing services than at the beginning. So that was Maharaj's answer there. But my question here is around, I know our sadhana, japa, hearing, chanting, reading, getting absorbed is the barometer where we check ourselves whether I'm making progress or not. Could there be any other things like, I know sadhana is the most important thing, but apart from that, like if you are feeling enthusiastic to service, you are not offending the Vaishnavas, ups and downs in sometimes chanting will be there because it's a cycle. It's not like I'm statically chanting every day. But down the line in parallelly, how do I check myself as a measurement? Like, am I really feeling inspired to do the service? Am I really feeling that, okay, I should go to morning program. I should, do this seva. I should help here. I should do it here and keep myself busy and more busy. Will that be another barometer along with sadhana? Because sadhana, we always hear that sadhana is the barometer, but are there any other measurements that also we should check? Because sadhana is not same always. So I can't say like I'm progressing all the time.
Different times Prabhupada said different things. One time he says barometer for our spiritual life is our taste in holy name. Another time Prabhupada said our barometer of our progress is how much I am becoming detached from material desires. Another thing Prabhupada says is how much I am eager to make advancement. Another time Prabhupada says time-based circumstances, he says how much I am becoming fearless. Prabhupada said to the extent you are becoming fearless, you are making advancement of a Krishna consciousness. In other words, as we make progress, Prabhuji, all these things comes, material desire will go down, spiritual desire, eagerness, enthusiasm. The enthusiasm to serve devotees will increase. The enthusiasm to constantly engage in service will increase. While this is all a very healthy barometer, Prabhuji, like when one devotee asked this question in Grand Rapids to Shamanan Prabhu, Shyamanand Prabhu says, how much enthusiastic we are to associate with devotees, or are we trying to avoid devotees? So these are all different symptoms of our spiritual health. Regarding sadhana, Prabhuji, I agree with you. Few thoughts, if you give me a couple of minutes. Regarding sadhana, it will be up and down. Regarding Maharaj answer, it is also based on time-place circumstances. All the answers given by pure devotees of Srila Prabhupada is based on time-place circumstances. It may not be suited for all, because when somebody is asking and he is very sincere, and when Maharaj sees that person, then Maharaj, when he sees what this person lies and where, what is the right answer for him. But if some other new person asks, or some person who is offensive asks, Maharaj answers will vary, Prabhuji. It's very much timely circumstances. So those who are sincere and taking responsibilities from Krishna, say maybe in management, in senior roles, then even if they are trying to do their best and they are trying to be in the best interest of everyone, there will always be somebody who will be displeased with them just because of the services they have. And then the answer is, well, Krishna is pleased with you because you're taking responsibilities. And like Prabhupada also says, it's not possible to please all the devotees all the time. So we just try to please Krishna, and some or the other things will go wrong, and that will impact us. And the result of that impact, the material desire may increase, the chanting may go down, but ultimately Krishna will protect us, guaranteed. This is one aspect. Another aspect is, in the beginning, one is very humble. I was recently discussing with Sham Kishore Prabhu. We spoke for 1 hour on this one subject matter about familiarity breeds contempt. 1 hour we were discussing to and fro, back and forth, Shastric examples, and how over time, one aspect is, we say that initially it's a free token. Another aspect is, we are not very careful dealing with the devotees. We see devotees as great personalities, like, some people have descended from heavenly world. They are like, all effulgent glowing people. So, and then with everybody we are like, Prabhuji, koti koti dandat pranam to everybody. So we get a lot of blessings also. But over a period of time, yeah, this person is like this person is like this person is like this. So there, that familiarity comes, and when with familiarity comes envy, with familiarity comes competition, with familiarity comes, like, and then fame in bhakti, and then it's like all the desires that we have in material life, when we come in spiritual life, we are a little bit protected, because we think like, this is material life, I don't want that. But then we are fully engaged in devotional service and very serious in devotional service, then all the desire from material life will try to apply um, um, all those principles that we have, because we are who we are. We cannot act one way outside, one way inside. Then all those things start coming among devotee circle. And then starts the Yuddha Prabhu. Then starts the churning. कि चलो अभी mainstream में आ गए, अभी लगे रहो. And then the especially lusty desires, it can arise from previous anarthas, and it can arise from offenses. When it arises from offenses, it can arise on a very advanced stage of devotional service also, like how Bharat Maharaj became lusty for deer. That is also lust. Or various instances on very advanced stage also, like how Roop Kavi Raj gave up because he offended. So this same principle, initially it's from anarthas, bad habits, then it is from aparadha and insincere practice or devotional service also. Nonetheless, throughout our journey, these emotions will be there. We will go through waves, and they arise from initially because of our previous life anarthas, and in advanced stages because of whatever services we have. Some are, many times we are sincere and they are not in our control. Still, they will come because someone is upset with us and we have no control and we may be fully sincere. So that time, the only thing in our hand, in our thing is, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, inconvenience I take in for rendering service to you is my greatest pleasure. And Krishna says, Tam Titikshava Bharata. Arjuna learn to tolerate. So he does not say, and that's why Rupa Goswami says, tolerate the urges. So there is a big emphasis on tolerance. We try to be careful. We try to recover. But many times these emotions will go. Try to tolerate. Does it answer, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, I think, thank you for explaining elaborately. Timing again, I mean, based on the time we spent at the beginning and the way we keep spending time with the devotees more and more, try to learn and understand more and more. I think it becomes like has to be a balance, like you said. It is not like a black and white. Any situation, any time, how do I act in this situation, particularly what is right or wrong? Naturally, Vaishnava, pleasing to Vaishnava is higher than anything else. I mean, there couldn't be anything higher than that. So yes, it I think over a period of time, based on experiences, and we do mistakes, we learn. Or once our hands are burned, then we say, okay, maybe in this kind of situation shouldn't have acted in this way. So we learn that lesson, and Krishna trains that way. Yes.
Krishna trains. Wonderful.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
All right, thank you. So I'm assuming there are no other questions on third chapter. Thank you very much. I hope this was more elaborate than last week. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Anandakoti Vaishnavendra ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all very much for joining. If I spoke anything wrong, please forgive me as a humble servant.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat
Hare
Pranam
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Is it
Thank
on?
you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Dandavat.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.